Next in our popcorn speeches, we have Jovanni Martinez, Head of Dev Relations at Agoric. Very excited about this one, so I'll hand over. I'll give you the warnings this time.
Okay. So I actually should have named this talk Private Cross-Chain DeFi Strategies. So a little bit of alpha, that's really what we're going to be talking about. My name is Jovanni. I've been an engineer for about 16 years. I've been building in Web3 since 2015, and this is my favorite place to be. And I'm also the dev engineer for Agoric. Okay, awesome. Okay, so how many people have never heard of Agoric in here? Okay, awesome. So Agoric is a layer 1. It has a JavaScript VM that allows you to write JavaScript smart contracts. But also, if you notice, one problem area that we're really tackling head on is this chain abstraction problem area. You guys know what that is, I'm assuming. Okay, so think of us as an orchestration layer. Let's start there. We're trying to make a standard for a chain abstraction. So think about this. You can use these really interesting abstractions because you're writing JavaScript smart contracts that let you do some really super powerful things that you could not previously do anywhere. Thank you so much. So here's how we kind of pull this off. So with JavaScript, you have these async primitives. And here, what we're saying is that we have this notion of contracts that allow you to perform multi-block execution. And we'll talk about why that's key. Well, if you think about it, typically in Web3, when you have a set of logic or an execution on a chain, it happens and it starts and it finishes in one block. We'll talk about why that's important. We also have this notion of on-chain timers. We'll talk about why that's important. And you could think of our contracts as reactive contracts that are evolving to different states. So let's talk about the use case really quick. So you're, let's say, an MEV searcher. And what you want to do is you want to have these two sets of contracts. One is your orchestration contract on Agoric, and the other one is a CosmWasm contract written in Rust on Secret Network. So what you want to do is you keep the strategy, the code, the logic of your contract in this CosmWasm contract. And I love CosmWasm. And then here what you want to do, if you want to do a fully confidential trade, you use ShadeSwap. And in here, if you want to just do a cross-chain trade on other chains, you use something like Agoric. In this POC that we're doing, we're using Osmosis. Make sense? Okay, you can interrupt me at any point in time. So first thing I have to say, when you're using the orchestration API, you have two different types of accounts. You have a remote account, an account sitting on another chain, which is also an interchain account. How many people have never heard of that before, an interchain account? Okay, interchain account, think of it as an account on one chain that can be controlled by another chain. Think of it that way. Well, you'll kind of see how they're used. But a local account, just an account on Agoric. So here's fundamentally how you would start doing this with the orchestration API. How many people in here know JavaScript at all? Okay, got a few people, nice. And you'll see the recording later, so you don't have to pay too much attention to this, but I'm gonna run you through what it's saying. So here what we do is, first thing that we do is we get these chain objects, and we just pass in a string that is the network that we wanna get. Then what we do is we make these accounts, and Secret today doesn't have ICAs enabled, but it will soon. So here what we do is we make these accounts. The API machinery knows the difference between a local account and remote, so you just make it the same. The API surface is the same. Here what we do is we're just gonna get the address, right, for whatever interchain account, whatever orchestration account that we're focusing on. This is an example of issuing an interchain query. So imagine, the powerful thing about these accounts is that when you make an account from the API, the only thing in the world that can control the account is the contract. And if you notice, I have usage of awaits here. This is just using regular JavaScript primitives for asynchronous behavior. But what I'm doing is I'm awaiting for this interchain query to resolve just as a promise as I would in JavaScript. Super powerful. Because what's gonna have to happen here is a packet's gonna have to go across IBC, which is like a communication bridge layer between two different chains. So you're performing that as inline execution, and your execution is continuing to the next line. Here's just an example of getting like chain info. You can see that in the recording, just pause it. This is what it looks like in one function doing all of these steps together, right? Just look at the white text. I'm getting my chain objects, creating accounts, getting addresses, depositing money into my local account, issuing an IBC transfer, and notice the await on line 14, and then I'm telling the remote account to go stake that money somewhere. I should call them tokens to be, SEC friendly. So how we pull this off with working with Secret is here what we're doing in our orchestration contract is you see where we have on line 6, we're invoking this query on a secret chain object. So and notice on line 8, what I'm doing is I'm using the message type directly from their Cosmos SDK implementation to get pretty much what's the command that I want the Cosmos contract to invoke. But then what I'm doing is that's me go back to our workflow in the beginning, that's us getting the response from that contract. And notice I have the query message up there on top. And here, what I'm doing is now I'm telling the contract to go perform the actual private swap. And notice on line 5, I'm just passing the strategy ID. But what's interesting here is this is without interchain accounts. Because if you notice on line 10, I'm just doing a dot transfer, which is an IBC transfer, as you've seen slides before. That's just an IBC transfer. And then in the memo, that is what's holding my command or instruction to be executed on the Cosmos side. So you can do this without the chain have interchain accounts, but then you can do it even easier with interchain accounts. So the structure is still the same up top. This time I can attach funds to it, and that's an array of funds, by the way, on line 10. And then on line 14, I'm telling it to go execute this message, which is the Cosmos message type for execute contract. And then, execute this contract, what I said. And on line 17, what I'm doing is see that secret account, that's what we made many slides ago. And I'm just invoking the same exact command that you've seen before, which is this execute encoded TX, which allows me to send that whole structure over a packet to invoke something. It's superpowers, I'll tell you. Then here I'm doing the same thing, but on Osmosis. I'm telling Osmosis, okay, go trade this asset. And on line 5, I'm providing the routes right there, which is just the path that we want the trade to take. And then on line 10, I'm telling it which IBC denom I want to get as the that I'm actually passing into the swap, right? So that's just me performing this on another chain from my orchestration contract. In this case, it's Osmosis, but it could be DYDX, it could be any other chain. Making sense? Like you guys kind of see that it's pretty simple to do just using the API. And that's really it in 10 minutes, or hopefully I'm not too far beyond that, but this is a superpower, and I'm trying to contain my excitement because you guys are the first crowd to really see this. And we're gonna do more of these things and allow more teams to build these integrations because this is really a POC to show people how this is performed. So I could talk for hours about this, but I just want to say that. Awesome. Yeah. Please, anybody, go ahead.
I have a question. So we're talking about confidential trading strategies. So what are some examples, like for the audience here, like what can be a confidential trading strategy? Why? Why is it beneficial to have it confidential?
Yeah, good question. So one main thing is, let's say if you want to just do a POC, you could do something like dollar cost averaging. And this would just be a simple instruction in the contract, and we're really trying to keep it abstract here because the point is that on Secret, you have the confidentiality of the artifact itself on chain with trusted execution environments. But then if you're using Shade Swap, that's allowing you for a confidential trade. But what's interesting is you could take it a step further to do more private things that are rabbit holes by themselves. But the strategy can really be anything. It could be, Turing completeness is a very powerful thing, right? So yeah, it really could be anything.
And then I have client, and well, nobody gets my crap.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could start taking it further and having dark pools and working with different relayers to do things. So, you can, when we showed the swap example up above, the amount that goes into the swap could be a static amount, a constant amount, or it could be variable, right? So there's different things you can do, which is a whole talk by itself. But yeah, any follow-on to that, or anybody else have any other question? Okay. Was this helpful, by the way? I just want to... Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.